So we have economics, paper 1, January 2018. So the table shows the source of electricity generation in China in 2015 and the percentage change in the generation of each energy source between 2014 and 2015. So we have the sources which are non-renewable source and renewable source. So here we have coal, gas, and oil, which are non-renewable. We have nuclear, renewable, we have hydro, we have wind, and we have solar. So based on this, they said it can be deduced from this data that China generated most electricity from renewable resources in 2015. In 2015, it generated most of its resources from non-renewable, which is another 990. So it is not A. Most electricity from non-renewable resources in 2015. Yes, in 2015 we have, yes, most electricity from non-renewable resources in 2015. Yes, because in 2015 we have nuclear, we have hydro, we have hydro, which is 3192, we have 129, and we have solar, which is 43, which is the highest when you calculate it. We have 43.2, we have 129.3, and we have 31.94. When you add them together, it's more than that of renewable.
So it is B.
Yes, B. So question.
So, Mr.
Yes.
So hydro, wind, and solar, it is renewable gas.
Yeah. And when we talk about renewable, there are resources that can be used and used again.
Yes, more than once.
Yeah. Non-renewable, they are expected to be depleted. They are expected to finish up. Yeah. So for non-renewable, we have 990 plus 26.1, which is nuclear and gas, oil, and coal. For non-renewable, we have hydro, wind, and solar. They are renewable. So we go to question 3. That's the explanation anyway. So for question 2, sorry. It said the diagram shows the weekly production possibility of two goldsmiths, Grace and Fabio, who produce jewelry. They each allocate half their working week to producing gold necklaces and the other half to producing gold rings. So basically, they both produce gold ring and gold necklace. So they said from this information, it can be deduced that Fabio and Grace could increase their combined total weekly output through specialization. Yes, well, specialization is the same as division of labor because division of labor will lead to specialization. So the answer is A, but let's look at the other options and why they are not. Fabio can produce more gold rings and gold necklaces than Grace in a week. Fabio produces necklaces 28.
B is actually wrong because Grace produces more.
Yeah, Grace produces more. So if Fabio specializes in producing gold rings and Grace specializes in producing gold necklaces, their combined total weekly output will decrease.
False.
It's not going to increase.
Because they're doing two separate stuff.
They are doing two things. And well, it is only when they are able to work together that they could increase their outputs, not separately. If Fabio and Grace both specialize, their combined total weekly output will decrease. No, it will not decrease. Okay. So it will increase. Now, let me explain why it will increase and the figures that makes it to increase. First, specialization. It means the concentration of an individual on one specific aspect of production. And when we talk about division of labor, it's the breaking down of production process into different stages, and each stage is being performed by different people. So based on this case study, now before we go into there, because we have two combination of goods produced here. So that means we have to talk about the production possibility curve or production possibility frontier, which is a graph that shows the combination of goods that can be produced. We're talking about gold necklace and gold rings that can be produced if all resources are fully utilized. So with that, we have for Fabio, they said if Fabio spends half time on each production, that means half of 28 for Fabio, yeah, half of 28 and half of 10. That is 14 and 5. And for Grace, it is half for each, which is 2 and 2. We divide 30 by 2, that's 15 and 15. That's 15. So the combination will be 15 plus 15, which is 30, and 14 plus 15, which is 29. So for both of them, they will be able to produce 49, which increases.
Together. 49? How is 49, Mr.?
It's 49
together.
Yeah, together. So for their combined, they're going to be able to produce 49 compared to if they have to do it separately, they're going to produce 38 or 28 or 30 or 10 and 30. So with division of labor, they'll be able to do more than if they work separately. Do you get the point here?
Yeah.
Division of labor allows them to concentrate on what they know how to concentrate on. So with division of labor, output is expected to increase. You get it? So here, so Fabian and Grace could increase their combination total weekly output through specialization. So with specialization or division of labor, output is expected or productivity is expected to rise. I think it's clear. So go to question 3. Kerala in India has introduced an indirect tax of 14.5% on products containing high levels of fat, such as burgers. Which one of the following diagram shows the likely impact of the introduction of this indirect tax on the market for burgers? Here, indirect tax is a tax on expenditure. And for this, we are talking about a value-added tax, add value tax, which is specific. So because it's specific, it means it will be charged based on the value of business services. Do you understand? So it should have been B, but it's not B, because for B, an indirect tax will also reduce the cost of production, will increase the cost of production, shifting the supply curve leftward. But because for an indirect tax here, it is not flat. If it was flat rate, if it's a constant rate, like maybe like a tax that is not just on consumption, because an indirect tax is a tax on consumption, on expenditure. So you pay more if the quantity you buy increases. So it is not constant. If it was constant, you should have chosen B. But it is not constant, which simply means it will be based on the quantity you use. So that's why it is A. Do you get it? And with this, it reduces your cost. It increases your cost, and it brings about more of social cost than benefits. So the answer is A. Supply curve will not shift rightward. It is not C, because if supply curve shift rightward, that meant that taxes fall. Cost of production reduces. And it's not about demand, it's about supply. It's not D. So go to question 4. Many Irish customers have never switched to another energy supplier, despite the possibility of saving up to €360 a year. A survey suggests that 31% found it difficult to tell whether another energy supplier would be cheaper. So because they cannot figure out if it is cheaper or not, that means they are poor at computation. And being poor at computation makes them to make irrational decisions. Right. So who is an irrational consumer? An irrational consumer is that consumer that is unable to maximize its utility or a utility during consumption. So there's an irrational behavior here. So the most likely reason consumers do not switch is that they do not feel valued by current providers. If they do not feel valued, they would have switched. It's not A. Have symmetric information. If they have symmetric information, it means they understand the positivity and they understand the negativity of switching. If they are free riders happen only when we're talking about public goods. So it is D. They are poor at computation. And that makes them not to understand the benefit of saving up to €360 a year. Is it clear? Yeah. So the answer there is D. Go to question 5. In a free market economy, a function of the price mechanism is to, well, first we talk about a free market. The free market is a system where resource allocation is determined by the price mechanism. Okay. That means demand and supply. So the function of price mechanism is signaling, incentive, and rationing. So here they said the free market creates an incentive to increase production of a good as the price falls. No. Incentive comes as a result of you being able to have a reason to increase production. It is not A. Allow government to correct. No, there's no market failure here. So it's not about government correcting market failure. Provide goods for free to consumers. The free market sell. They want to maximize profit, so there's no free good. They ration resources by allowing the price to rise when supply falls. So the free market for rationing simply means we only sell to those who can afford it. So that means we allow prices to rise by ensuring that the supply reduces. We reduce supply to increase price and sell to those who can afford it. So it is D. I think it's clear. Yes. So, and we went rationing, the supply curve will shift leftward and price will increases. That is it. That's the graphical representation. Okay. So go to question 6. The other said, which of the following is likely to result in an increase in consumer surplus and an increase in producer surplus in the market for Blu-ray discs? A fall in price of substitute for Blu-rays. If there's a fall in price of substitute, they will switch to buy from the competitors of Blu-ray.
Yeah.
So that will not increase producer surplus or consumer surplus because revenue would fall
If they switch.
for Blu-ray if they switch. So it will reduce producer surplus. So it's not a rise in cost of firms producing Blu-ray discs. So if there's a rise in cost, it increases the cost of production. Producer surplus is expected to fall. It is not B. An increase in productivity of workers producing Blu-ray discs, yes. Increase in productivity will bring about reduction in cost, and that would increase producer surplus and consumer surplus. So the answer is C. Do you get this? And the rise in the price of complements, if there's a rise in the price of complements, there's always inverse relationship between, the XED for complementary goods is negative. So there's inverse relationship between a product and its complement. So a rise in price reduces the quantity supply or demanded of the complement. So it is not D. I think it's clear. So that's about that. We go to question 7. It said, the diagram shows a government-operated buffer stock scheme in the market for maize. So we have the ceiling and the floor price. The ceiling is the maximum and the floor price is the minimum. So the ceiling price is set. So why do we have buffer stock? We have buffer stock because government wants to ensure that there's stability when it comes to price. So if the quantity supply increases, instead of firms or producers to run to shortage, government will buy to stabilize price. If the price increases, instead of consumers to pay exorbitant price, government will increase supply to reduce price.
What if government increases subsidies for individuals so they can buy it?
Subsidy.
Like help them to buy.
Here, government is not going to give subsidy. Government has kept a lot of stocks to release them if the product becomes scarce.
Oh, okay.
So if the product is excess, if there's excess in the market, government will buy them so that producers will not run at shortage. So government works for both producers and suppliers. That's why a buffer stock is a scheme that allows government to buy or sell stocks to stabilize price. Okay. So here, the ceiling price is P2. So with that ceiling price, government revenue would reduce. Government revenue would reduce because government will be selling to the consumers because they don't want the price to exceed the ceiling price. Do you understand? So there's always a buffer stock scheme to stabilize price. When there's excess in the market, government will buy to reduce the excesses. And when there is scarcity, government will sell to increase the product. So price will be stabilized. I think it's clear. So go to question 8. Okay. It said, in a mixed economy, government failure occurs if, when we talk about a mixed economy, we're talking about a system that combines both the free market and the planned system in the resources allocation. That means we're talking about the combination of the private sector and the public sector. So they said there's government failure if external benefits from fascination are ignored by the price mechanism. If it is ignored, that's a market failure, and that's misallocation. It is not government failure. External costs are internalized by the price mechanism. That is also a market failure. Are you with me? Business incur excessive costs to meet new health and safety regulations. Yes, this is a government failure because this might bring about unintentional consequences. How? Unintended consequence or unintended consequence, because if firms incur more costs because of health and safety regulations, they might leave the country. Do you understand? Do you get my point here? Yes. So that is government failure. So excessive cost for firms bring about incurring more cost, and that will increase their cost of production. And if their cost of production increases, they won't have any other choice than to increase price. So if they increase price, consumers have to pay higher prices, and that is government failure. Government caused this to happen. So that is unintended consequence from government failure. So the answer is C. Firms exit a market in response to a fall in demand. A fall in demand is not necessarily true government failure. It's just about price mechanism. Does it make sense to you? A fall in demand is all about price mechanism. So it is not government decision here. So if firms are exiting the market because there's a fall in demand, it could be as a result of A fall in aggregate demand. The answer, which is maybe demand deficiency, and that will bring about unemployment. So it is not necessarily government failure. It's a market failure which government might solve.
Sure.
Do you understand? So it's question 8 down. So we choose question 9, right?
Yes.
So the extract is there for us to see in the screen. That's the extract. So the extract is there for us to see in the screen for extract 1. And we have extract 2, which is seen in the screen. Okay, now we'll go to the question. We have the extract 2. Then we have the question. With reference to extract 1, explain why the price of wheat decreased from August 2013 to August 2016. Illustrate your answer with the supply and demand diagram. So we'll go back to extract 1. So from August 2013 to August 2016, the price of wheat per metric ton fell from 305.50 to 127.9. This was caused by good harvest in 3 of the world's largest growers, Russia, Canada, and the USA. So that's why we have a fall in price. So first, the price of wheat decreased from 305 to 305.50 to 127. This was result as a favorable harvest in the 3 world's largest grower of wheat, which are Russia, Canada, and the USA. So these are the reasons why we have a fall in the price. So this implies that the supply curve of wheat will shift rightward from S to S1 or downward from S to S1. As a result of that, the price there's going to be a low equilibrium price from PE to P1 as the quantity expanded or extended from QE to Q1. And that would increase demand. The demand will also expand. Do you understand? So that's about question 9A. So we'll go to 9B.
Can I see the graph?
Yeah, sure. So go to 9B. They said, with reference to extract 1, explain whether the supply of wheat is likely to be price elastic or price inelastic. First, what is price elasticity of supply? Price elasticity of supply is the degree of responsiveness between the quantity supplied of a product as a result of a change in the price. Then it is price elastic. PES is price elastic if it is greater than 1. And that occurs if there's significant change in the quantity supply of a product as a result of a change in price. Then we have inelastic. It is inelastic if it is less than 1. And it means there's no significant change in the quantity supplied as a result of a change in price. So what is the situation about this? We have price inelastic situation here because it takes 6 months for wheat to grow. So irrespective of the price, it has to be 6 months before wheat will be harvested. So that means the demand or the supply for wheat might still be price inelastic. So the supply of wheat can be price elastic because there are 2 wheat harvests in a year based on the case study. So this may allow supply to be price elastic. Is it clear? Yeah. We go to question 9C. With reference to figure 1 and extract 1, evaluate the impact of the fall in the price of wheat on the manufacturers of breakfast cereals. So a fall in the price of wheat will likely help producers of breakfast cereal in terms of reduction in their cost of production. So if the cost of production reduces for those that manufacture breakfast cereal, they use wheat to manufacture it. So this will likely increase the supply of breakfast cereal, shifting the supply curve rightward. It will also bring about an increase in producer surplus. As demand is likely to increase, this can be graphically represented like this. Okay. So a fall in the cost of production means more supply of breakfast cereals, shifting the supply curve for breakfast cereal rightward. Breakfast cereal quantity right from S to S1. As a result of that, the quantity supplied of breakfast cereal will increase from Q to Q1, bringing about a fall in price from P to P1. I think it's clear. Yes, sir. So go to question 9D. With reference to extract 2, assess the impact of farmers switching from grain crop to livestock. Illustrate your answer with externalities and externality diagram. So for what is external cost? External cost is a negative spillover on third parties who do not take part in decision making. That's externalities, a negative externality. A negative externality is a market failure. And why do we call it market failure? It's a market failure because social cost of production exceeds the private cost of production. Clear, right? So wheat production brings about loss of water according to the case study, according to extract 2. They said wheat production brings about a loss of water and land. This reduces water production and increases the price of water consumption. Are you with me, please? Yes, sir. Okay. So according to Extra 2, trees are cut down to make space for grazing and untreated animal waste products, or waste pollutes. And that will bring about waste going to the stream and water. So this means companies have to spend more to purify water. This increases the cost of production. Reports stated that 51% of greenhouse emissions are caused by livestock farming. That's an external cost also. So it takes 100 times more water to produce meat than wheat. So this means water will become scarce. And when water is scarce, that means the cost for water, the price will increase. Yes. So the meat industry is directly responsible for 85% of soil erosion in the USA. It's written in the case study here. So however, switching to the production of animal may increase employment. And as a result, income may increase. So the negative externalities caused by switching may be graphically represented as this. So the marginal social cost of production will exceed the marginal private cost of production. That's the extent. The welfare, there will be welfare loss here because social cost exceeds the private cost. And as a result of that, the quantity reduces and the price rises to P2, from P1 to P2. I think it's clear. So go to question 9E.
9E.
Yes. So the question 9 says, with reference to extract 2 and your knowledge, discuss 2 government policies that could be used to reduce the external cost of livestock farming. So there's external cost of livestock farming, that is market failure. And whenever there's a market failure, there's always going to be government intervention. So what is government intervention? What is government intervention? Government intervention occurs through when government has to correct the market failure. So government will use government policies to correct government failure or market failure. So what are government policies? Government policies are instruments that governments may use during intervention to correct market failure so that they can achieve their government objective. Okay. So what are those government policies that can be used when correcting market failure? Government could use fiscal policy. Fiscal. So fiscal policy is the use of taxation and government spending to achieve government objectives. So we're going to talk about just this. So government can use minimum price or maximum price also. Government can use regulations. These are different ways in which government, yes. But I'm just going to talk about subsidy, or I'm going to talk about fiscal policy, which is subsidy and taxation. So we're going to start with taxation, indirect tax. So government can use, so I wrote fiscal policy is the use of taxation and government spending to achieve government objective. Taxation, indirect tax. Government may increase indirect tax on meat products because we're talking about livestock that has brought about market failure, right? So government may increase indirect tax on meat products. So this will bring about an increase in the cost of production. This will in turn reduce the supply of meat-based products. So this will lead to a high price. This will reduce producer surplus. This will increase government revenue through taxation. It will increase government revenue. And if government revenue increases, that will bring about increasing government spending on public finance like infrastructure, education, healthcare. So that will graphically be represented as, okay, I'm going to talk about the graph afterwards. So another point another fiscal policy that government could use is supply side, or subsidies, sorry. I'm going to talk about, I said supply side. We talk about subsidy. Subsidy is a financial help from government to reduce the cost of production. So here, government might subsidize for grain producers because a lot of grain producers have switched to livestock because livestock is making more. So with subsidies, government might subsidize for grain producers. As a result of that, the cost of producing grain would reduce. So the supply of grain may in turn increase. So farmers may switch back to grain production rather than animal production. So price for grain reduces. So producer surplus is expected to rise, and consumer surplus is expected to rise also. Right. So for indirect taxes, an indirect tax will shift the supply curve leftward from S to S tax. Okay. And that will bring about a contraction in the quantity supply from Q to Q1. And that will in turn increase the price from PE to P1 for indirect tax. And for subsidies, subsidy is a financial help from government which reduces the cost of production. So with subsidy, the supply curve will shift rightward from S to S sub. As a result of that, the quantity supply will extend from QE to Q1. We read about a fall in price from PE to P1. And that ends paper 1 of 2018 January. Thank you.